quick. Okay. So that teeny tiny little shift that we made was not necessarily asking what training do you want us to create, or what, even what goal are you looking to achieve. What we started asking was a little bit more of what I would call a different type of questioning, which is, what is the end state that you want to have? Right? How does it feel? How does it look? How do you know when it's there? Right? And what we found is that, and again, Nadia, I think it goes right into what you were saying, is that it was actually quite different from the presenting goal that they thought they wanted. Has anybody experienced anything like that in their personal life? Or, in your work life, where you thought it was what you wanted and then you did it and you're like, actually, that's not what I wanted at all. Right? I got it. And that's like not actually what I wanted at all. That didn't do it. Did anyone ever experience that in any way? It happens to me all the time. Right? It happens to me all the time. And it used to happen to me a lot more. And we started like pulling the thread on this. And what we found, and this is like what people wanted, was to perform at a different level, was for things to be quicker, was for things to be easier, was for things to not feel so hard, right? That was the end state that people really wanted to achieve. And the goals that they were setting were actually never going to help them do it. Because the difference between asking people, what is the end state that you want to achieve, versus what's the goal that you had in mind, is the difference between a convergent thinking versus divergent thinking. And I might have that wrong, so forgive me. Somebody can Google it for me. But it's really open-ended versus closed. And a goal is actually a very close-ended item, right? It's the fine point. But to Nadia's point, if you never do all the stuff up front to really figure out the state that you want to achieve, right, you actually aren't creating the right goal. And I'm going to give you like a really simple and easy example around how this happens and what it is that takes place. And it's a personal example, because sometimes I feel like we can all resonate with these. So let me ask you something. Does anybody have a group of friends that they like, but not kind of that much, but there's a lot of obligation around, if I show up to that group, because if I don't show up to that group, something else is going to happen? Can you relate to me? Right? Yes. Right. So, there's and Carrie, some of you are local folks, you're going to know what I'm talking about, but we live on the South Shore of Long Island, so we're very close to the beach. My favorite thing about living in Long Island, I'm not originally from here, but I love it because we go to the beach. When my kids were little, every day we went to the beach. Now it's like weekends, whatever, but we get to the beach all the time, and I didn't grow up with that in my life, and it is one of my favorite things. And we have a lot of good friends. They have like these things called beach clubs, and the Cabana Boys, they bring your chairs down. It's like spectacular, right? You don't have to do a thing. You just show up, your things go down, your umbrellas get set up. And it's very common to have these big groups of people, which is nice. But there are times when I was like, I don't want to be in the group. I'm also somewhat of an introverted person, and sometimes I just want to sit with my book. But I always really felt like so obligated to be in that group. Like, what was going to happen if I didn't go to that group, right? Is my kids play with these people? Are they not going to invite me to the parties anymore? Like, all my stuff started flying out, around these groups. And so I decided one day, I was like, you know what? I'm going to get to the end of the boardwalk, and I'm going to go left. I'm just going to go left, and I'm just going to sit by myself, and I'm going to just see what happens. And I have to tell you, I'm sure you can appreciate this, I was sweating bullets. It was worse than any like boardroom presentation that I've ever actually given, because I like these people, right? Like, and I was so worried about what could or what might or what should happen. And so I'm walking down, and I'm getting to the end, and I went for it. I went left. And guess what happened? Any guesses? I think I saw Carrie mouth it.
Nothing.
No one cared. Right? No one cared. No one probably even noticed that much that today we sat someplace else. And so what that taught me and what I know about what goal setting does is that we actually are only setting goals on what we believe is possible today, not on what we believe could be possible for us in the future. So all of a sudden, right, we're setting goals that actually aren't that important to us, in most ways have been set by somebody else. And now my expectation around what I think I can achieve in this goal is probably somewhat limited to what it could be. And when all of those things crashed together for us and we started testing and playing with us, that we really found that the word desire became the thing that opened up possibility. So I don't know if anyone got to the homework from last night. If you didn't, it's not a problem. But really what I asked people to do, because we're actually going to do some goal planning. This is like a hands-on workshop. We're actually going to do some goal planning, and I'm going to show you some of my goals from last year because they're quite different from what most people do. And it's on purpose because I really want you to see a different way to think about setting your goals for 2023. And I think this is important for you to know for yourself and for those of you that have teams, because the company goal or your goal is quite frankly, the desired state that someone else wants to achieve is very, very different. And when you give them the opportunity to bring in what they desire to achieve as a result of this work that you're doing together, there's much greater buy-in. One of the things that we've tested and that we know over and over again from our research is that desire is actually a huge activator. I like to call it the energy of success, right? Goals are very practical, applicable, right? But they often don't have that extra little oomph that you need when you run into pitfalls and obstacles and roadblocks, right? Like we were having a funny conversation, Pete and Larissa and I were having a funny conversation. We're like, listen, the first time never goes very well. Proof positive, we couldn't even get the app up, right? Okay, that happens, right? But because I know what my desired state is for that app, like I have a big dream around this app that they've so graciously let me see, that it doesn't matter that today it didn't work. I'm going to give it another shot because I have an end state that I have an end state that I want to achieve. And that's what happens all the time. We go to hit a goal, we don't, and we're like, oh, that didn't work. And that's the end of it, right? There's no energy, there's no emotion, there's no feeling around how do you tie yourself into committing to do things that feel hard, that feel uncomfortable, that feel like they're not possible for us. So tapping into desire is how you get that fuel. And that's often what's missing from people. What's really interesting, and we've studied this over and over again, and I'm going to actually have you do this at the end. So I'm just going to tell you about it now. But we actually poll people about how confident do you feel to go out and take this action at the end of a training class. And here's the most interesting thing that we found. The level to which you believe you will be successful is actually the biggest predictor in whether you will be. And not because you're going to go do it and do it well. Nobody does anything well the first time they go do it. But because you're anchored in and you're tied in and you feel, right? It's that feeling creates the energy of success that actually propels you to push past comfort zones, right? Everything you have right now is in your comfort zone, but everything you desire is outside of your comfort zone. So you need that extra little fuel, and that comes directly from desire. And I'm not sure if there's so many people that have helped me with this. I want to just sort of give a shout out to Marianne because she is one of the people that really helped me to experience this for myself, right? So, and I would have told you I was the most confident person you ever met. Not really. But when I got done with her, then I really was. Then I really was. So, there's really interesting people on this session. So I'm going to make introductions as I can because there are definitely people I would love for all of you to meet. I love what Cheryl's on my team, and she's at confident and growth cannot reside together. So what I'm going to do is I want to show you a couple of my desires from last year, just because they're probably so different from, most goals that we traditionally set. I just want to give you a look of what that could be. While I'm doing that, I'm gonna play a little music for you, and I'm simply going to ask you to turn off your camera if you want, get up if you want, take a little walk, like whatever you want to do. But I want you to just enable yourself to say, what is one thing that I would truly desire for next year? Like, not need, not want, not supposed to have, not my parents told me to, not that this is a requirement of my job, like not any of those things, but what is truly like a desire? And quite frankly, extra points for you if you don't even feel like you could have it right now. Like, that's how much I want you to think about this. It's probably not something you have now, and it probably will feel like that's not even anything I might even be able to have. How much can you desire like that? And I'm just going to give you one more thing. It doesn't actually have to be tangible. So it can be a physical representation of something like, shoes or a car or money or, something along those lines. But it can also be a feeling, a desired state that you want to achieve. And it could also be something that you're interested in releasing, which is a very different way to look at things. You can look at it from any of those. So let me turn on a little bit of music, give you a couple of minutes to desire, however that works for you. I'll give you a little Nelly. All right. So that was Nelly. He was dreaming. You were dreaming. He was dreaming. We were all dreaming. When you're ready, come on back. Hopefully you got to pick at least one thing. And honestly, what I'm teaching you now is a skill that you will be able to continue to use over and over again. And I have a follow-up guide for you, because part of what's in here, everything that's in here are personal experiences, things I've learned. I'm not your average person. I spend a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of resources learning things. And sometimes my clients will be like, well, how did you learn how to do that? And when I think about the amount of money and the amount of time, I'm like, well, I spent a lot of time and I spent a lot of money. So I'm like, all right, we got to share more of this, is like the whole point of this, right? Not everybody is going to do what I'm willing to do. And so how easy can I make it? Because I'm a trainer, right? And how many people can I get to use it? Because that fuels my mission of just being happier at work. That's like one of our driving forces. We spend a lot of time at work, especially as an adult. And I don't think most people are very happy there. And I think it's really unrealistic to think that most people are going to quit, that they're going to start their own company. Like, I think we're in positions sometimes, and the goal is really how much can we empower people to do things that can make them happier and more joyous at work. So that's one of my goals. So hopefully you have, I don't know, it says I'm in Zoom, but I don't know, I tried again. I would really love to show this to you, because I know a lot of you run meetings, and this is, we'll do it again. We'll have you back for something else. I want you to experience this for yourself, because it is really cool. So here's my vision board. Can you guys see it? All right, it knocks out my chat. So it's one thing I hate about Zoom. But this is my vision board. And I hope the first thing that you notice about my vision board is that it's really not numerical. That was by design. I have other places where I focus on numbers and, strategy and all the stuff. But this is my fuel, right? This is my fuel. And it is a direct result of this process that I'm taking you through right now. What is it that I desired for next year? Right? This was 2022. What is it that I desired for 2022? I kind of did some work and came up with 2 words that were really important to me. So my business was in a place where it was moving from, sort of a extra set of hands kind of philosophy to this is our viewpoint about how people achieve performance. And I had a definite opinion, and I needed to expand my ability to share that with other people. And that's very scary. If you've never done it, or you do it in microcosms, for me, it was terrifying. And I knew that it was what I needed to be able to do. So one of my big words was show up. And then the other thing that was happening that I wasn't really happy with is that the more I focused on my work, the less I focused on my family. And one of the reasons I got laid off from my corporate job back in 2008, one of the reasons I never really ended up going back is because I really couldn't duplicate the life that I had created by becoming a real estate agent and having a side hustle if I went back into a full-time corporate role. I was out and I wasn't going back. I didn't leave voluntarily. I'm always impressed with people that leave voluntarily. I got laid off. I don't think I ever would have had the courage to do it, but what else? My life had other plans. So there were two really important things for me. And that was really kind of how I came about these things that were key in making that happen. So one of the goals I ended up setting for myself was there something special that I did with my family every single month? And that was the intention behind not being so busy and so focused that I would just say no to others. Like I would say no to the personal things. I'm sure we can all appreciate that somewhere. You're constantly choosing where your time goes. And I believed that if I made my family and my time with my family a priority, that would fuel me and help me say no to things that I shouldn't be going to. So this was one of the things, my vision was just could I have more time with my family? Could we do something together as a family every single month? And I'm happy to report I did. Some months it was literally like, okay, we're going to Dave and Buster's, no family, no friends, no other kids, just the four of us, but it would, and no phones. So everyone had to leave their phone at home. But honestly, I don't even think I would have done that some months if I didn't have this on my board and I wasn't constantly thinking about this as my desired state. So I'll share that one with you. This one for me was like life-changing is all I can say. Life-changing for me this year because I love Tucker Carlson. I find him a very interesting person and he talks to a lot of interesting people. And quite frankly, I'll be a little vulnerable and I'll tell you, didn't think I was all that interesting. Come from a pretty basic background, no huge stories. My mom was a nurse. My father was a teacher. I kind of had like this vision or belief around myself that I was interesting, but not that interesting, right? Which is bullshittery, which Marianne helped me out with a lot. And I'm going to teach you a strategy for. And so I was like, okay, fine. This is how you think now. Who would you have to become? What would you be willing to do? What actions would you take so that people like Tucker Carlson would find you interesting? And I challenged myself all year long. And the first thing I did was beginning of last year, like this time last year, I joined my local chamber of commerce, which as a stay-at-home, I run a business from my house. Back in the days where you had to hide and pretend you didn't do that. I literally pay for a post office box because it has a suite number because people didn't take you seriously as a business if you worked from home. So that's not true anymore, but that's how long I've been doing this. But that did mean I was really home and I had great connections. Cheryl is testament of that. Cheryl and I have been working together. I don't know, Cheryl, close to 10 years, 8 years. And we've literally never met in person. Never met in person. And we've created some of the most beautiful training programs you could ever imagine. So anyway, so there's Tucker Carlson. I don't want to spend all my time talking about these, but I want to just share some. But because I just sort of end the thread because I believed that I wanted to just expand who I could meet in the world. I joined my local chamber of commerce, and in my local chamber of commerce, I got invited to a weekly networking meeting with another group of business owners. And from there, I have gotten an opportunity to launch a podcast this year that's happening in 2023. I've had some of my biggest proposals ever because I was introduced to people by people that knew me in a different way. So that one little shift in thinking around how could I be interesting, more interesting? The problem was I didn't believe I was interesting, right? Those of you who know me are probably like, that's actually not even true. right? But that doesn't matter. It was my internal belief around it. So this is what I'm talking about when I talk about desires. So, and how the desires fuel you. I'll give you one, actually, I'll save that. I'll save that for later. So, I have a desire that I'm happy to share, but I don't want to be the one doing all the talking. Is there anyone, I'm going to ask anybody that wants to put their desire in the chat. I'm going to have you go ahead, put it right in the chat. If you don't want to, you don't have to either. I don't think there's a way to do this anonymously, is there? You can't do an anonymous post, right? Now, if you want to send it to me privately, I will post it for you without your name. But I'd love to see if we can populate our chat with as many people that feel comfortable sharing their desires. So I'm going to give you about 3 seconds. Go ahead, type it in, but don't hit send.
Can I ask what platform was that, Susan, you were using? Because I'm looking for a platform for a digital vision board and I can't find one.
Oh, Canva.
Yeah. Oh, that was Canva. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't think.
And actually, I'm going to send you, and Cheryl's my resident Canva expert. Cheryl, you're on here somewhere, right? Cheryl is the lead creative director, on my team. She's also the most amazing creative.
I'm here, Sue.
Yeah, that you've ever met. We do a lot of Canva training stuff. So we have.
Yeah, Canva's amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, we help all of our clients with Canva. We do a lot of Canva training. It is one of the best platforms you can buy, and it's actually free. The most basic version of it is totally free. So Canva, yes, definitely look at that's where I did that. That's where I did that board. So, okay, do we have them in our chat? Okay, ready? I'm going to give you a countdown. We're going to do a drum roll. Ready? When I hit 3, 2, 1, I hit send, and we'll light up our feed. You ready? Drum roll. 3, 2, 1. Pop them in there. I love it. I love it. I love it. And look how different they are, right? This is what I'm talking about. When companies say, let's goal plan, do they ever ask you what you desire? Because you'd be amazed at how much you can tie a company goal into a personal desire. And when you help your people achieve what they desire, the engagement, the connection, their joy at work, like it just goes off the chart. It's this easy, and nobody's is even the same, right? Everybody's is completely different. Look at these, right? Nadia with her TV show, and listen, speak them out loud. You have no idea who's in this room, right? People, I truly believe most people want to help other people. There's always the outliers, right? But on a whole, most people really do want to help you. And when you keep it to the vest, when you don't tell people about the things you desire, you are actually prohibiting people from being able to help you. You'd be surprised. Nadia and I were in a class together, and I talked about somebody I knew at a company, and she was brave enough to reach out to me and say, hey, I would love to talk to that person. Can you make the connection for me? Which started a really great conversation. Like, it is that easy, right? We believe that things are so hard. It's not. It really is that easy. Let's see. Inspiring others to be better learners and teachers, which is so fitting with what you're doing, right? You're completely aligned with what you're doing, which is awesome. Home with an in-law suite. I love that, right? And life balance, Lisa, such a good thing. And I'm going to encourage you to think about what would that really look like for you, right? Because I feel like there's a lot of definitions, and for everybody, it's different. And for everybody's job is going to give you a different opportunity to achieve that. So continue to pull that to you, right? Bigger contract from bigger corporation. I love that, Dawn, right? Speak it out. And then, because we're going to do the exercise of why don't you have it right now? This is my favorite part. So like dreaming is the first part, right? And so what I'm going to invite you to do, since we don't have, a lot of time, like keep doing this. And I find that if I go to bed, did anybody ever find, like, it'll wait, like if you go to bed tonight thinking about this, don't be surprised if it wakes you up. It'll wake you up with like what you need to do. Like you'll start getting like, you start calling things in, they start showing up for you. Don't be surprised if what you said today all of a sudden shows up on an Instagram feed somewhere, right? Don't be surprised if what you start thinking about, all of a sudden there's a book title, there's a song that you heard. Like the second you start opening yourself up to desire, right? And calling in these things that feel good to us, the second they start appearing for us in the craziest places. So I love all these. I love all these. And there's nothing on here, right? More time for family. Yep. TV show. And again, some are big, some are little, and there's nothing on here. Oh, Cheryl, to love more, love that. Yes, Lauren, get more excited and passionate about work. I have to tell you, I stopped taking so many projects because they're so boring, right? Like there's nothing about them that excited me anymore. And you know what happened when I took them? I wasn't very good at them. I was actually really resentful. And I actually didn't put myself forward in the way that I want to. I didn't do the level of work that I wanted to. And I do find that when people are getting ready for a big up level in their career, Dawn, I see career things like the things that you've always done no longer feel great to you anymore. That's a really good like sign that you're ready for the expansion, right? Everything that you have is comfortable. It sits inside this little world. Everything you desire is outside of it. So all of these, more patience. Pete, I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you. And you know how you actually get more patience? By being kinder to yourself. I'm going to give you a little, it's like this craziest little thing. But the more tolerance you build for your own mistakes, your own shortcomings, however you want to describe them, right? The more tolerant you become of yourself, the more tolerant you become of others. We're actually quite hard on our own selves. And we think that, you know, I don't know what we think. I'm not going to try and put words into it, but we are actually hardest on ourselves. And what's crazy is that when you start to be nicer to yourself, you actually have more capacity to be nicer to others. I did a lot of work. I'm going to go back to Marianne. She's like in the top of my screen, but I did a lot of work with Marianne on forgiveness. I had a million things to forgive, and my own self was the biggest one. And once I started to forgive myself more, I automatically had more patience, more capacity for love, more tolerance, more willingness for things to be uncomfortable or hard. Like these are the things that working with companies for so long now are the actual tweaks that we make. Do you know that the majority of people come to us for an onboarding program is actually not at all what they need? I mean, they need it. We're going to give them their book, but the second we stopped worrying about what the onboarding book was going to be, and the second we started spending more time understanding why are you frustrated, what's causing the frustration, what's behind the frustration, and how do we help you solve the frustration, the less important the book became and the better results we got for our clients. Because the book is the control that we're seeking, because when you're in expansion mode, it's chaotic, which is quite uncomfortable, right? That's quite uncomfortable. And so we think the book is what's going to make me feel better, but it's the managing of ourselves through the chaos that actually does. So it's funny. I've been creating training for over 25 years. And these last 5 years are the best training programs I've ever created, the best results I've ever gotten for people. And I can tell you with clarity, every time I create a program that has the least amount of training in it, I get better results. Because it's not the information that helps people to achieve, it's what's in the way. So anybody want to talk a little bit about their goal or share anything before we move into a little bit of how do we help you set yourself up to actually now write a goal and be successful? And do you see, let me just ask it this way, and you can do the thumbs up, thumbs down, yes, no in the chat. Do you see implications for this for you in your personal life and your work life? Yes, hitting the mark with that. Okay, that's making me happy. Okay, good, good, good. All right, so let's talk about why not yet. Because in the Disruptive Spark, in our programs, when we're working with our clients, whether we're building a self-guided mentoring session, a live session, cohorts, whatever we're doing, the first question is always, what's the desired state? And then we ask the second question, write this down. Why not yet? What I want to know is what's in the way. Basically, what I'm asking is, what have you already tried? What worked or didn't work, right? And why do you think it didn't happen? And that's a great question, right? So why don't you have it now? That's literally all I ask. I do very little talking. I know I'm doing all the talking, but I do very little talking. Tell me about the end state that you'd like to achieve. Okay. All right. Now, why don't you have it yet? And what have you tried? Like, sometimes that's a nice little follow-up. Like, I need to know what they've already tried. And I'm going to actually, it comes down to 3 things. I'm going to tell you the 3 things and we're going to like parcel them out. So the first one, 3 simple things, is there's actually a skill that you don't know or can't do. So when you look at your desire, I want you to just take a minute and write 1 or 2 things that you don't know or you can't do, that are part of the problem of you not achieving this today. Because there's something you desire and you don't have it. So there's things that are getting in your way. One of them is always a skill, generally, not always, but when you start to write down your things, you will probably identify some skills. Peter, I'm just going to use yours as an example. This may or may not even be true for you, but a lot of times what people are saying is, I need to learn to meditate. I'm not patient because I don't know how to meditate. And when I learn how to meditate, then I'm going to be patient. And has anyone ever tried to meditate? How'd you do?
It's good. I mean, at first it takes practice, but the more, I should do it more because it helps. It definitely helps. And, I find sometimes if I don't, for a while, it works. It does. But the first time you do it, you have to get like practice, like exercising. You have to get practice into it.
Right.
For me.
So Larissa, she's right with me on how do people learn. Lauren, these are all my favorite training folks, right? The upshot is I don't know how to do it. And I tried it and it didn't work. If you've ever worked with anyone, that's what, well, I tried that already. It didn't work. That's one of the number 1 obstacles I have to remove for people. I tried that. It didn't work. I meditated once. I hated it. It wasn't for me. Right? Like that's what happens. So hopefully you're getting this list of skills. And the truth is there are things you have to learn. And more importantly, we call it the muscle memory. You have to do it enough times until you get it right. So a lot of times if your training isn't working, it's not because you didn't learn the skill, it's because you didn't practice it enough to get all the nuances and tweaks down. So we often run things 2 or 3 times before we do the final memorialization phase, because it does take a couple of rounds to get the tweaks right. So one of the first things hopefully on your list are some skills. Maybe you need some skills. Okay.
So could you clarify that process just a tiny bit, if you don't mind?
Yeah. Which part?
So you're saying that you want us to build a short list of skills that we need to
Yep. I want you to identify
to achieve our goal. And I maybe this is an offline chat. I don't know what it is. In order for me to get more passionate about my work.
So maybe it's not
I don't know how to do that. So
okay.
do you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what skill, I don't know, since I don't know.
All right.
Well,
so leave like an open box there. If you don't have a skill right now, leave an open box for it. It might not be a skill issue at all, right? So this is like what we find out more than anything is the majority of the problems we solve for people are not skill related. Passion is not like, I'm going to go learn to be passionate today, right? It's not really a skill, which is why you're struggling. You're like, but I don't even know how to do that, right? I would contend that Marianne could probably give you some skills you've never tried or some activities you've never tried. But in essence, becoming more passionate isn't necessarily a skill, right? So let's move on to the next one. So there's 3 reasons you don't have what you want. I don't know how. When I was shifting from being a trainer and running a training department to becoming I took a side trip. I spent a decade selling real estate, by the way, which was amazing. And launching my own consulting company, I had no idea how to run a business. I had a massive skill gap that you could drive a truck through, right? Like I didn't know marketing. I didn't know sales. I didn't know how to do those things. That was a massive skill gap. So that's sometimes an easy one to identify, right? But the thing next is a lot of times it's that you need a person. So there are always people way ahead of you on this journey who are able to show you the way. So sometimes you need to learn something. Sometimes you need to meet someone that can show you how they've done what they've done. So one of the things that we really encourage people to do is to find mentorship, right? So, Lauren, just to use you as an example, sometimes it's reaching out to people that you believe have that state that you're looking for and developing some sort of relationship with them. I love social media for this. Like you can create relationships with people that, this is how Pete and I met, right? Like you can create relationships with people that would never cross your path, that are doing things that you find interesting, that are sharing things on social media that resonate with you. And, when people are already actively doing that online, they're generally are open to conversation. So you can, like for me, it was, I needed to meet more people. So I joined my local chamber. And that walking through that door and meeting those people opened the door to exponential things. So sometimes it's skill, sometimes it's who do I need to meet, right? That's going to take me in that direction. And then the third one is why do I believe I don't have it? Why do I believe I'm not allowed to have it? Because if it's something you already desired, right, and you don't have it, then there's an internal piece, there's an internal story. I call it my bullshittery. That is actually the biggest block of all. That is actually the biggest block of all. And, the best way to get at those stories is to write them down. Write them down. Again, like this is an hour session. We don't have time to go through all these, like when Nadia had to jump off, but this is why she spent 8 hours working on this. And you don't need to do it continuously. But one of the things that we have you do right now, and we can even try this right now, is what are the stories, right? What are the reasons that you're not allowed to have this? And I believe when it comes to work, a lot of times they're just standardized work practices because work's not supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be hard. You got to work hard, right? There's a lot of beliefs out there. There's a lot of cultural norms. There's a lot of things from your families. There's a lot of like crazy little events from childhood. Like when I started like journaling, which was one of the strategies that I learned how to do. So why not, Susan? Why aren't you interesting, right? The craziest story popped up for me from 5th grade. I had a really good friend and all of a sudden we weren't friends anymore. And I can say this as an adult, I couldn't say this as a kid, but I internalized that as, oh, they just don't like me so very much. And that became a core belief in a program that was in me, making decisions for me every single day that I knew nothing about. And so I'm going to show you this one little slide. This is like my favorite quote slide that I think really, and I'm going to show you one place that you can get a little bit more information on this because we're kind of like doing the speed version of this. And like I said, I have a follow-up. I have a follow-up that I'll send to you if you want to go deeper on any of these topics. But here's the upshot, right? You're only ever one new skill set, one relationship, or one resource away from everything you desire, right? Once you move the bullshittery out of your way. So what are the stories? society has told you, your families have told you, your religion has told you, cultural norms have told you, and your own personal experiences have told you about why you can or cannot have what you desire. Those are generally like the biggest blocks for people. And the better you get at identifying those and rewriting that story for yourself, which is basically what you're doing, the easier it becomes to achieve everything you desire. And the momentum of that desire is oftentimes what fuels the fire. A goal is never going to do that, right? A goal is never going to help you propel through that.